This week we're watching Pride and Prejudice, otherwise known as What Excellent Boiled Potatoes. Hi readers, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine Season 2, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines of any genre. Because that's what we do now.
Want to see what's next on our TBR list? Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Instagram for a sneak peek at upcoming content or to help us pick our next book.
We're here to talk about the hand scene.
Honestly, this whole episode is just dedicated to the hand scene.
And if you don't know what we're talking about based on the music that we started with and just the hand scene, then this is not the pod for you.
Honestly, because it's become equivalent terms. Like, you say the hand scene and everyone knows you're talking about Pride and Prejudice 2005 Keira Knightley.
Exactly. And then so I was convinced that this particular scene happens way further on, and it doesn't. It's really early.
It's super early because I just watched it and it caught me off guard because I was like, oh, that's like way later. And then it's within the first 45 minutes.
They've known each other for a week.
Yep.
Maybe.
And he's already like, oh my God.
And she's like, why do I feel tingly right now?
God. Just like her look down and she's like, who the fuck's hand is this? And then like it shows his face and he's like kind of distraught. And then it like his hand like
clenches.
Yeah.
Before we lose our minds, because we are so excited to talk about Pride and Prejudice 2005.
Just, reference.
We're not going to go step by step through the entire story. Everyone knows this story, but we do have some memorable scenes we kind of want to go through because why wouldn't we?
I know.
We have some discussion points, some recommendations. And that's kind of going to be how we proceed.
Just the vibe, a little gossip sesh.
Yeah.
I think I've seen this movie more than any other movie ever.
I think I've already told you this, but this is the very first movie I saw by myself in theaters.
Yeah, you did say that like recently.
Yeah,
oh my God.
I think I might have been 14. And so
oh, that's such a good age.
Yeah. And my parents wanted to go see a different movie. I'm like, no, I've been waiting for this movie for years. Because we were also talking about this, the fact that back in the day we had to wait. I remember seeing this trailer on TV. Same with Howl's Moving Castle. And having to go to see it in theaters. There's no movies like that anymore.
No.
That you get that level of anticipation for.
Yeah. Oh my God. I would have lost my mind being 14 and seeing this by myself in theaters. I can't even put into words the feelings I would be feeling.
I went back and I saw it 2 more times in theaters. I have the DVD, I have it downloaded on Amazon Prime, it's everywhere.
It's such a good comfort movie because I was talking to my partner about this a couple of days ago about comfort movies in having only a couple of them and them also being season coded during the fall winter time. I might watch this, but it's only if I'm feeling seasonal depression. But during springtime, I watch this movie probably 4 or 5 times in a 3-month time period.
I never put words to the seasonal movie / book thing, but that's 100% true.
Yeah.
Sound of Music for me is late fall, early winter, getting ready for Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
And this is spring, summer, every time.
Yeah, because it's just so soft and fun and even the color toning, when they were going back and editing all the colors, it just April, May time frame.
Well, and to say nothing of the music. Oh my God.
Beautiful. And it just, you can hear one of the songs and just immediately
see the movie.
Yeah. And you're just giddy on the inside.
I don't remember how long ago I bought the piano score for it.
Oh.
It warms my soul every time I sit down to play. And it is not the advanced version. It is the baby version. There's no way I can play the full
I
one.
was honestly so impressed. I was like, God damn, Jordan's
no,
maestro.
No. Catered to 6-year-old piano players. That's the level I'm at.
I love that. I also love the idea of 6-year-olds playing the 2003 2005 soundtrack of Pride and Prejudice, instead of Disney movies.
Yep. Oh, I have that score book too.
That's fair.
So Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah. So before the hand scene, though, I feel like we need to address not the elephant in the room, but like, why is Caroline Bingley such a bitch?
No.
Because I guess I never realized that I knew she was a bitch, but I never realized, like, why.
I think it depends how much background you have as far as like knowing the time period, having read the book. I don't think either one of us have actually read Pride and Prejudice all the way through.
No.
Like, let's be honest, I love the story, but the writing is super dry. I know, like, English lit majors are gonna like kick us in the face. That's fine. It's just you can't immerse yourself in that style writing. At least I can't. But back to your question or point, heavy dose of classism in there because they are titled, I think, or maybe Mr. Bingley isn't, but like Darcy is.
Yeah.
And then the Bennet family is like a very, very minor. I forget.
They're misters, but like
they're landholders, but like they're not a marquis or a lord.
Oh, like to quote Miss Bennet, like, we're not high to do, but we do have a cook at least, or whatever she says to Mr. Collins.
So I think that's, and especially like the London crowd versus the like country crowd is a whole other level there too.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because if you're in like Mayfair, London, like you're going to balls every night and like you're wearing the ritziest dresses, like even if you don't have a title, you're like the in crowd versus the country bumpkins out in like the cornfields.
A lot of things are connecting right now. That makes sense. Because I also didn't realize, so she wanted to marry Mr. Darcy?
Oh, who wouldn't?
Well, I mean, like, yeah,
but yeah, so it's interesting if you look at it from Caroline's perspective. She and her brother, what's Bingley's first name? Do we know?
Don't know. He's always just Mr. Bingley.
Mr. Bingley. I always think of him as grown-up Ron Weasley.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
Charles Bingley.
Charles Bingley.
Oh, yeah. Charles, really?
We're going to be doing this very snooty accent the entire time.
100%.
But she and Charles grew up with Darcy. It's your older brother's best friend. Like, why wouldn't you like develop a crush and be like, oh, I want to marry him one day? And like,
that checks out.
And then this bitch comes strolling in with her pretty eyes and her like forward ideals. And Darcy's like, well, I guess I'm a goner. So
that makes sense. Because it's funny, in the scene before the hand scene, Elizabeth and Caroline are like walking out together and she's like, thank you for all of the information. It was like informative. In the fucking side eye that Carolyn, like, holy shit. Like, you can feel it through the screen. You're like, God damn.
Caroline is such a ginger cat.
Yeah.
Like
oh my
100%.
God. Yeah.
But that scene, so we were talking about this scene obviously before we came online, and Elizabeth has such a moment with Darcy when she's explaining, like they're discussing, what is it, the virtues of virtues of womanhood or something.
Yeah, and it's like, oh well, it's no surprise you only know like one esteemed woman, or not experienced woman.
Is it in that scene that Elizabeth is like, well, I feel like dancing is the best way to, or is it later on?
I think it is. It's somewhere, I think, right before they talk about it. Yeah. Because he's like, oh, well, how would you encourage affections or whatever? And she's like, dancing. And then it's like said with a little nasty smirk.
Yeah.
I only, on this last watch through, I think, I connected the dots that the scene where they have the ball at Mr. Bingley's house or whatever, where Mr. Darcy, like, super awkwardly out of the blue appears like a fucking Dracula vampire and he's like, would you like to dance? That was only because she made that snarky ass comment.
And her reaction was so relatable. She's so like thrown off guard and she knows she's supposed to say no, but she like can't help that she's attracted to him and wants to say yes. So she's like, sure, yes, I don't want to, but now we're dancing. Like,
oh, and immediately after her like running with Charlotte and being like, did I just say yes? It's like, I think everyone has had that experience of like, you know, Tolo or prom, and you're like, did I just say that? It's like, you're 17, but yes.
To say nothing of the dance scene itself when it slows down and then that melancholy music, it's a minor key.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is dark and stormy and something is brewing here.
Because it feels almost combative too when you listen to it. Like, I never could put it into words, but it feels like not aggressive, but like two cats like circling each other. Like they're gonna fight, or are they?
This is the original enemies to lovers
For
story.
sure. Yeah. Speaking of enemies to lovers, I only recently realized that the rain scene when Mr. Darcy first asks Elizabeth to marry him, he's kind of a dick about it and completely insults her.
Okay, but to champion Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy.
Who hasn't felt that way at some point? Like,
Honestly.
I love you in spite of all of these shortcomings. We're
Mhm.
just, most of us are smart enough not to say it.
That's fair. Because I just love the fact that he was like, I love you, but let me list all 87 reasons that I'm a little bit hesitant to ask you to marry me. And it's like, that's maybe not the best time.
No. Like, don't start off with your mother's obnoxious, your family's overwhelming, you're poor. Like, don't say those things. We all know them to be true, but no.
Because I never understood, like, I got why she was like, no, you're kind of a dick. Like, I'm not going to marry you. But I never understood that when maybe I was just not listening, but he literally insults her, her family, her sister,
Her upbringing.
yeah, like everything. And then he's like, but I still want to marry you. It's like, I would be kind of mad
Like, fuck
too.
off, bro. Like, no.
And it's funny too because like the tension is so well played in that scene because they kind of like get close to each other, like those scenes where people are fighting and they get closer and then one kisses the other. He 100% is like, we're gonna kiss, and she's like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. But you can see the absolute confusion on his face when he's rejected, because this man has probably never been rejected in his entire life. Because look at him, like, he's good looking, he's wealthy, he's titled. Like, why wouldn't you say yes?
And it's funny too because he gave all 87 reasons that he's marrying her in spite of, but then she's like saying no, and he's like, but you have all 87 of those reasons why you should be saying yes. Like, wait a second, what?
So the other like underlying factor here is that asshole, Mr. Wickham.
Oh.
And she is like slightly infatuated with Mr. Wickham at this point.
I wondered. I didn't realize that she kind of had like a flirty,
a minor thing. I think you can kind of see, I think Keira Knightley does a really good job portraying like Elizabeth as like I understand that he's like a flirt and he's fun and like he's not a serious prospect, but like I like him as a person and I've seen nothing to like really make him, to me, be a bad person. So why would Mr. Darcy treat Mr. Wickham like shit if they grew up together? So like that's another factor where she's like, not only no, but you're really mean to your friends too.
That's true. Because I got that impression, but I feel like when you put it into words, it's like, oh, it makes sense that she would also kind of like hold that against Mr. Darcy of like, you were also a cunt to this man that you were friends with, and like, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
Because I've always kind of not misunderstood the Wickham thing, but between not understanding the backstory completely and then always being bamboozled like every single time I watch it with she was 16 years old, like that crushes or 15 years old when he's talking about his sister Georgiana. I'm like, oh, you're a fucking pedophile, man.
It's so bad. But the weird thing too with Mr. Wickham is you can kind of see that he likes Elizabeth, like honestly.
Yeah.
Like there's some authenticity there.
Yeah.
When he's talking to her and you're like, oh, but he's broke.
Yeah.
So he needs something.
But he's also a bad person.
He's also
too.
a bad person. So it just doesn't work.
And I think that's also what confused me because the whole Lydia storyline running off, getting married, fallen woman or whatever, that always confused me. And then Jordan explained it. But then if he knew that Elizabeth wasn't really like a actual prospect for him, or maybe he did, and he was like trying to get in her pants then?
Maybe. I think he probably recognized that Elizabeth was too smart for him.
That's a good call.
Because, I mean, look at Lydia and Kitty, and then look at Elizabeth.
That's true.
He's also got a type, which is apparently underage girls. So between
Also
Georgiana
true.
and, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that hurts my soul. Because I didn't realize that they eloped together, but they didn't get married yet.
Yeah, they were like, he told her they were eloping, and then they didn't actually go and like get married or anything. And so they were just hiding out in an inn. And like Lydia's reputation is entirely compromised. So like she's got no prospects if she goes home after like running off with a man.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Bridgerton a time or two. I get it. Oh my gosh.
But okay, Charlotte, who becomes Charlotte Collins, but Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth's close friend. We kind of skimmed over the involvement of Mr. Collins and Charlotte.
Yeah.
There is a lot of stuff to unpack there. Specifically when, Mr. Collins comes to visit and he's like eyeballing all the Bennett sisters, even though he's their cousin.
So grody.
So gross. And all of the sisters reject him. And, Elizabeth's mom is furious. I had the chance to marry off one of you girls. Elizabeth, I know you're not going to get anyone to marry you. Why didn't you say yes?
Honestly.
And so she's pissed. Elizabeth's pissed. Dad's like, well, it's not my problem.
Oopsie.
But I thought it was really the conversation that Charlotte has with Elizabeth, which is something to extent of, hey, like, this is my only prospect. You can do whatever you want, but I have no money, no looks. I'm a burden to my parents.
Like, we're 100% going to quote this because it's too good to not quote. And have you seen all those pictures of people like having it on birthday cakes when they turn 28?
I haven't.
Oh my God. I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents and I'm frightened. So don't you judge me, Lizzy. Don't you dare judge me. Because it's like they have little birthday cakes and it's just little check marks when people turn 27 and it's like 27 years old, no money, no prospects, burden to my parents, scared.
But like on a more serious note with Charlotte, it's kind of sad, but like recognizing that Charlotte can be happy and which her decision to, marry Mr. Collins. Ooh, hi.
He has thoughts too.
He does not like Mr. Collins. I don't blame you, buddy.
Boiled potatoes are spectacular, though. Whatever he fucking says at dinner.
The boiled potatoes. What excellent boiled potatoes.
Oh my God.
We've seen this movie a time or two.
Serious. Charlotte Lucas.
Just the fact that it's not a bad decision. Like,
Yeah.
Mr. Collins is annoying, but he's not a bad person, and he's not going to abuse her. He's not going to mistreat her. He's just kind of weird.
Yeah. Because I feel like it kind of drives home that point when Elizabeth goes to visit Charlotte and she's like, oh, it's such a joy running my own home. And she also, when they like scoop past him and he's just talking to himself and then he looks around and they're gone, like it's very indicative of that. Like, yeah, I married him, but I don't really have to like deal with him. You just kind of handle him and then you have like my own office for my own particular use or whatever she says.
It's a parlor.
Oh, yeah. But it's just like she's making the most, like, this is the best she could get. And it kind of worked out for the better.
Yeah.
Like,
And I want to hope that you can kind of see a glimpse in Mr. Collins that he actually starts to care for Charlotte a little bit. And like, oh, like this is his wife and he's like trying to shepherd her and like carry her. Like he's obnoxious about it. But yeah it's cute.
because I think the first time I realized that was during when he was giving the sermon and he said intercourse instead of a different word because his wife was like looking at him and then he got all like heated and like, it's like, oh, y'all bang for the first time, huh? And it's funny too because Charlotte's like face during the whole thing is like not smiling, but you can tell she's
smirky.
like,
Yeah.
she's like very seriously looking at him, and he's like intercourse, and he's like, I mean discourse.
But so after Charlotte tells Elizabeth, like, hey, like, don't be mad at me, like, don't judge me, Lizzy,
Yeah.
like, we get the scene of Elizabeth sitting on a swing,
Oh my God,
spinning.
I love this.
Ugh, please.
It's so like every teen girl wants one of those like moments of just, I'm misunderstood and time is moving by and I'm just wasting away. Because they 100% have this moment in New Moon, the movie, and, there's a possibility. And it's like spinning slowly as she's having her like manic depressive episode. It's 100% the same scene.
It is. They did it so well with the change of seasons as she's
yeah.
spinning. It's just beautiful to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the scene that Elizabeth is kind of realizing how the world is changing around her and where she kind of fits in and everything and feeling lost. Which, man, if you don't relate to that, like as a young woman looking at, your best friend leaving for a new life and your sister is in love with a man and like, what do you have?
Yeah, that is true. Because there is kind of a feeling of loneliness maybe
Mhm.
in it, or like melancholy, or I think you even said melancholy early, but I wish life would happen to me.
Mhm.
And it kind of calls me back to the scene where her and Jane are laughing after one of the balls and they're in bed together and they have the sheet over them. I think it might actually be after. I don't remember when the scene happens, but Jane is like, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter about Mr. Darcy. Like, you didn't really like him, you know?" And then Elizabeth has this kind of sad, cryptic smile. And it's like, no, she has a lot of feelings about it. Like, what are you talking about?
So I think that scene happens after she goes to visit Charlotte, and then she meets Lady Catherine de Bourgh,
Oh, that would make sense.
and then the Colonel who's friends with Darcy. And the
Yeah.
Colonel is who reveals like Darcy's like background
Oh, yeah.
and the deal with Wickham. And like Elizabeth realizes, oh, I done fucked up.
Yeah, Hollywood is like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was the other thing. I love that scene because they're talking in the church or something. And then Elizabeth or the Colonel is like, oh, yeah, he recently saved his friend from like unseemly marriage or something. And she's like, he
Excuse the
what?
fuck out of me. Yeah.
Just the like that. I feel like everyone's had that moment where you're gossiping with someone and then you
Mhm.
find out something that you wish you kind of hadn't heard. Oh, the audacity, the just like anger in her face when she's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, but what did he do for Mr. Bingley? And it's like, oh, I probably would have killed someone. I'm gonna be real. Like, if my sister was head over heels in love with someone, and then this like dude bro asshole kept them apart for no fucking reason, we're fighting on site.
I think that is one of the best character traits Elizabeth has is
Mhm.
her absolute love and protection of her like sisters, no matter like like they annoy the shit out of her, but she's also very caring and protective of Jane, for example.
Yeah.
And even like her mother annoys her, but she's still gonna stand up for her.
Yeah, because they have the scene where she's, like, hugging her over her shoulder as the
Mhm.
mom is crying or whatever.
Mhm.
That's a good segue into, connections to ACOTAR, because I feel like Elizabeth gives me Nesta vibes, but there's also Feyre, like,
A dash of Feyre's like
self-sacrifice or, like
martyrdom.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good word for it, 100%. But she also has Nesta's kind of, like, take no shit, I'll fucking fight you, put
Like
your hands
react
up.
first and process later.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because that is
You.
oh, okay. I was gonna say Elizabeth, but that's fine. But then Jane is 100% Elaine.
Oh yeah.
Just
There's no other flavors of character in Jane.
No.
It's just Jane is Elaine.
Yep, she's just here for the vibes.
Yeah. She's just sweet and not gonna stand up for herself.
Just having a good time. Because that also, I recently found out when we were making the notes for this episode that Rosamund Pike, who plays Jane, previously dated the guy that played Mr. Bingley like 3 years before filming. And while they were filming, she was currently dating the director. It's like, that's so awko. Because I have so much respect for actresses and actors that can put their life like kind of to the side and
Mhm.
then just act. Because
There's not a chance in hell. Mm-mm.
because you would not have thought watching that. Like, I was surprised to hear that because their love is kind of like nuanced and very like spring,
Mhm.
gentle, soft, but like you do see it. It's like sunshine almost. But it's like, I don't know that I could do that if I dated that man and then we broke up.
Yeah, and so I feel like there's absolutely no chemistry in this version of the movie between Jane and Mr. Bingley.
100%.
And that's because Mr. Bingley is always fucking cast terribly.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the catch. Like, he's like the equivalent of Jane. He's wealthy, he's handsome, he's like the guy to get. But we get Ron Weasley instead.
He 100% gives me golden retriever vibes.
Yeah.
Like, no higher thoughts going on behind his eyes.
But this is like a dumb golden retriever. Like, not even a really pretty one.
No, just like he's a golden retriever, and you're like, really?
Yeah. It's just I don't like that.
Though I will say, I think the only scene really where I got any kind of like, oh, I kind of like Mr. Bingley is when him and Darcy are preparing for him to propose to Jane, and like he's fucking losing his mind, and then they like role play for a second. I lost it, and I lose it
Mr. Bingley.
because his stupid little bow too. I would have pushed Mr. Darcy into the fucking pond they're next to. Oh my god.
Okay, so something that occurred to me as we were kind of discussing things, and this is just a pet peeve of mine because it's all about Elizabeth and Jane.
Yeah.
And I get that Lydia and Kitty are way too young to like really have their own story arcs yet.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so bad for Mary.
Oh my god.
It is like that sympathy embarrassment you feel, like especially when she's playing the piano at the ball.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. And then the scene when her dad is hugging her and she's crying. My soul.
I mean, if I was going to take, honestly, which character are you? I would probably get Mary. Awkward as fuck.
I kind of feel that in my soul. Because it's interesting because I feel like this movie, and probably Pride and Prejudice as a whole, does a really good job of capturing all of the stages of like becoming a woman, like going from like those awkward like middle school years and when you're a little bit older and you can like think about love. Like you get all of those scenes throughout like the whole movie from all of the sisters, because like everybody's had that Mary moment where you're like embarrass yourself and then you're just fucking rung up about it, and then the getting in a fight with a guy that you like but you didn't realize you liked him and then it's too late, like that's totally.
Or feeling too shy or reserved like Jane feels, like you've been burned a few times, like I don't know if I'm feeling this.
And you just have to watch your like happiness sail away.
And then the giddiness of like Kitty and Lydia, like, oh, there's officers in the town.
But then also their disappointment when they like throw the handkerchief and then it just gets like
stomped on.
And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just such a good like
every woman can relate to each of the characters at a different point in their lives.
Yeah. It's just such a good, not coming of age movie, but almost like it just has what it means to be a woman
at every like point in life and in relationships.
Yeah, honestly. Because I feel like even Miss Bennet is kind of like relatable as you get older, and the like I have fucking five
daughters. Can you imagine? You have five daughters, and then all of the money that your family has is not going to you or them. It's going to some random Mr. Collins.
Yep. So I totally understand her little fucking panic attack, and she's like, I'm just anxious all over my body and I have trembles. It's like that's me. Even at like the slightest provocation. I love this movie so much.
It is so therapeutic to watch it.
I will say though, this is the only adaptation I've seen. So I've seen Persuasion, the like Netflix one with Dakota Johnson, and I've seen Emma with Anna Taylor-Joy, but I haven't seen other like specifically Pride and Prejudice like remakes.
Let me educate you.
Thank you, master.
I went through a phase. I think I'm still in that phase, actually. I did go through a very, very specific phase of like watching old black and white movies like pre-1960 or so. There is a 1940 black and white Pride and Prejudice.
God damn.
I want you to do me a favor, and so we get this live. Google Laurence Olivier.
Girl.
That was the original Mr. Darcy.
Oh, I would have lost my fucking mind. I can only imagine all of those little 1940s women. He like comes on the screen and they immediately like pass out.
Oh, yeah. And so I think Katharine Hepburn plays opposite him.
Girl, what? I don't like old movies, but this might be one. Like, that's too many beautiful people in one movie to not watch.
So if it is Katharine Hepburn, she's phenomenal. And if you don't know anything about her, I think Netflix did a biopic on her.
Oh.
And it's fascinating. She's a really intriguing like woman. She did a lot.
Interesting.
But her banter with Laurence Olivier, like their chemistry is phenomenal. And look at them.
Yeah. Oh my God. He kind of looks. So there's this one picture in particular I'm looking at, but he kind of looks like Henry Cavill almost. I think it's the jaw.
Yeah, it's the dark hair, the jaw, and the way he delivers Darcy is like very reserved and like kind of uppity. Because 2005 Darcy will always live in my heart, but he's a little on the spectrum.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Because I do wonder, though, because I feel like if Mr. Darcy was super handsome and suave, I wouldn't like him as much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like his like,
awkwardness, his
Yeah.
quirkiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also,
I mean, yeah, eye candy for sure.
and
But
then
I would wonder, like, in the book, is he awkward or is he?
yeah, I don't remember.
I don't know.
You feel so disconnected. At least I felt
Mm-hmm.
disconnected from like the story. I could not lose myself in the story.
Yeah.
It is beautiful writing.
Mhm.
Like you can appreciate from a literature sense, but like I'm not a lit major, so
No.
give me the movie every time.
I want the feelings.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so you have also not seen this version, and I am begging you during your any time that you can find, because it's long. It's like 5-6 hours
Oh,
because it's a
wow.
BBC miniseries.
Oh,
1995 Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth is like neck and neck with 2005 version.
Really?
Yeah, and I think the casting for Elizabeth is like spot on.
Oh, I didn't realize this is Colin Firth. Like, I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen him in other things, but I was like,
You've
Colin
probably
Firth.
seen him in like he's older now, so
Yeah, he's handsome though.
he's a good in between Laurence Olivier and the dude who plays 2005 Darcy.
Yeah, because he has that kind of like he's handsome but in like a weird way,
Mm-hmm.
but not that it detracts from his handsomeness. Because I will say Mr. Darcy in the 2005 one, like he's good looking, but in a weird way.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about the BBC version is that you get more of the story, kind of like the way K-dramas, like you get more character growth and development and spend more time with them because there's 5 to 6 hours to do it rather than like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
That's true. That's true. That makes sense. It's kind of interesting too. I wonder because there really hasn't been a remake of this after 2005, except that weird like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies or whatever. That didn't happen.
No.
I almost wonder if they like can't
do it any better. I would hope not. Focus Features is the studio, and they've done so many great movies, like especially period pieces.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did the most recent Emma.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah.
I like how it's kind of what's that one director that does like the weird scene management? People always make fun of him. I don't know. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about, like, but it's not connecting in your brain. But it's just so disjointed almost and like kind of a satire.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I like that, but I also like the actual, like, let's lean into the emotional crisis that is Pride and Prejudice. Like, I go both ways.
There's one final, like, movie adaptation that it's worth mentioning because I don't think a lot of people know about it. Bridget Jones' Diary, which came out in 2001.
I did not know that was
I know I watched it. I might have enjoyed watching it, but it's not like a rewatch.
Yeah.
She's kind of obnoxious.
Oh.
And funny, Colin Firth is also in that one.
Okay, that's where I know him from. Okay, because I remember seeing this commercial like all the fucking time, but I never watched it. I think I was probably too young. Yeah, I do. I recognize him. That's kind of funny that he played
both
back to back. That's kind of fun. It's like a throwback.
So, I mean, maybe if you need a more modern version, like that's the version for you. But
I could see that. But how can you not love this version?
No, like it's every aspect of it, from the cinematography to the music to the acting and who they cast is perfect.
Yeah,
except for Mr. Bingley.
Accurate, 100%. Because we also didn't really have a lot of books inspired by Pride and Prejudice that were like good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton out there, and readers, please like let us know if you've read one that we're not tracking.
Oh, 100%.
I've read, I would say it's fan fiction for Pride and Prejudice because one is called, they're both published books, and I think that's because we're way past the copyright on Pride and Prejudice. So both of these are by an author named Jennifer Becton.
Hmm.
One is titled Caroline Bingley, and the other is titled Charlotte Collins, and it's like a spin-off story. So they have their own storylines. And I think I enjoyed both of them a lot, especially if you have a soft place in your heart for like the villain characters like Caroline.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe they're not so bad.
Because I want to know more about her, because when you get her perspective, I bet you feel bad for her. Like some fucking country hoe came in and snatched your, like, the person you've been fiending for your whole life.
If I remember correctly, the way they portray Caroline in this story is that she's very self-aware. And so she feels embarrassed and humiliated and like feels in competition, but feels powerless to like go against it.
That's going on my TBR because I love that as an idea. Because I like characters that are multifaceted and like kind of deep and not just always the good guy. Like, it's always very compelling to me when you get there, like when they're kind of a dick and you're like, God, why did you do that?
I think that's what makes it a little tough to when we're talking about Elizabeth, because she's fun to watch, but she's not the most relatable.
No, I 100% agree with that. Because she has moments where I'm like, I don't like you.
No, like not at all.
Yeah.
But like Jane, what's not to like about Jane? And like everyone has felt so like reserved or insecure at some point in their lives that they cannot voice their true feelings. Like that's more relatable than Elizabeth, who's like, I don't like you. And I'm going to tell you exactly why I don't like you.
Oh my God. Because I know I do that, but I don't think I can do it in the way that Elizabeth does it. Just fucking like entitled almost. Like she has this very like standoffish, like
entitled, I think is the best word for it.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't have to be a bitch when you tell people you don't like them. Like you can, dance around it a little bit, but it seems a little undeserved for,
Yeah.
The only person that deserved it was Mr. Collins.
Poor Mr. Collins. That man can't catch a break.
I just still love this scene when they're all sitting at the dinner table and he's talking about like dropping little compliments and they're like, oh, are they all rehearsed or are they like spur of the moment? And he's like, little column A, column B. And they're like, oh, we can't tell it. Oh.
They are roasting that poor man the entire dinner.
I will say I am impressed by his ability to not recognize it or like be unfazed by it. Like,
oh. Yeah.
He's just
Oh, and he is so cringeworthy when he drags them all to the Lady Catherine's place.
His stupid little like curtsy thing. Oh my God, the way that he shuffles out to like talk to her, it fucking kills me every time. Because it's just this awkward like butt clench like Oh God. LOL. I want to watch it again. I just watched it like 3 days ago.
This movie plays in my head whenever I start thinking about it or talking about it. Like there's so many scenes that I've just seen so many times.
Yeah, I start to hear the opening song that plays and it's just like, oh, let me just zone out and watch this in my head really quick. I love it.
So that's Pride and Prejudice. We hope you love it as much as we do.
Shame on you if you don't.
Yeah.
Honestly.
You are not welcome here if you don't love Pride and Prejudice.
I'm going to take a little bit of Elizabeth's stance here. Oh my God. Well, from our movie shelf to yours,
we will see you on the next page.
Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.
Bussin'.